Nobody wears a brown shirt now, you see. No banners. Consequently, they're difficult to recognize.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Kill James Bond. I am November Kelly. I am joined, as always, by my friends Abigail Thorne and Devon.
Hello.
How you doing?
And we have watched a good film.
Oh, we did it!
We did it!
We found one!
The novelty of this.
We found a good film!
At long last, in the season of solidarity, in the tail end, in the dregs, we have found a film that was actually enjoyable to watch.
This one fucking ripped.
We're like Old West, like fucking podcast prospectors coming back, covered in filth and donkey shit. Like, we got one! Like, holding up a gold nugget.
You want to get rich in a gold rush? Sell the Eurospy. That's what.
Yes, yeah, that's true. This is the Quiller Memorandum, which...
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this for it. He doesn't write a fucking memorandum in it.
It doesn't seem to receive one either, so...
he gets fucking completely owned for the entire...
Start to finish.
Gets his ass handed to him for the entire film and then totally Deus Ex Machina by luck at the end.
This is a movie about how it would go were I an intelligence officer, right? In that he gets outwitted at every turn and then some. And it's just earnestly really good. And the way you can tell it's really good to start with is the cast list, right? Because we start in Berlin, and in the opening titles, you see the name Alec Guiness, and I go, fuck yes. You see the name Max von Sydow, and I say, fuck yes.
Let's go.
Center Berger, fuck yes. And the screenplay written by Harold Pinter. So...
Ooh... I missed that.
Yeah.
God, hell yeah.
We know what we're about here. Like, we're working with professionals.
I tell you what, they got John Barry on the soundtrack as well. They got the Bond theme guy.
Yeah, and do you know who sings the theme song?
No, I don't.
Matt Monro.
Matt Monro, the guy who did From Russia with Love.
Oh, shit.
There's little, like, Bond connections here and there.
Beautiful. It's because it's a British movie.
It is.
This is not this is European spy movie in that Britain is Europe.
Yeah, it's Eurospy in
time.
the sense that it's like pre-Brexit, so we hadn't like sawed ourselves off from the continent yet. I don't think we're in Europe.
I think we're still European.
Geographically, because, you know, we had that whole vote about. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
We have to begin, as is tradition, with the 009 scene.
Correct.
Yes.
And this is a well-done 009 scene. We're in Berlin. It's like a Berlin street. It's night. It looks inhospitable as fuck. And a guy sort of like hurries along to a phone booth, tries to make a phone call, and is shot through the glass. And you go, RIP to 009, the man with the thinnest tie in the world, by the way.
Yep. The movie always begins with an agent called 009 being killed, and then we cut to M. But in this time, we have two M's. We have M and M, who are having a lovely lunch
in none other city than
London. Yes, indeed. They are doing what I do every day, which is eating pheasant and saying things like, yeah. And just being very plummy. I love these guys. Did we get any drops of them? Because their accents are like...
I actually didn't, is the thing. But you can find it in the also Alec Guinness original Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy series. There's bits of it sprinkled about. It's like very RP in a way that like even posh people don't sound like now. And they're like also not in an office. They're in a gentleman's club. They're in like the Garrick or something like it, having the worst food. Like the thing is, it's pheasant, right? But it looks like school food. There's like a shot of a waiter like dumping a kind of like mortar shell of mashed potatoes onto this guy's plate.
Pheasant school food? What kind of fucking... Well, I know what school you went to.
Like rehydrated slices of pheasant.
Pheasant fingers?
I'm just saying.
Pheasant dinosaurs?
These guys are great.
It's posh school food in the sense that the ingredients are quite expensive, but it has been both cooked and plated like in a very Spartan way. So what you have is this like poorly cooked like thing of pheasant and like some mashed potatoes and some peas, and that's it. Like,
listen, this might be fine dining ingredients wise, but I know a lunch lady was involved at some point in the process.
And this is the thing. This is what the food in like those kind of London clubs was, and to a certain extent is like, right? It's because for like people who are still kind of mentally stuck in public school and, you know, want to eat that for the rest of their lives.
And these guys are posho cunts, and we get that because they're discussing the death of the boy in the previous scene. They're like, oh, 009's been done in. Tragic. And then they just start talking about the pheasant. They just talk about, it's a nice little meal. Like, they so clearly do not give half a shit about this man who has just been killed.
I wrote down they care as much about 009 as we do, which I kind of like, you know?
They're like, there's been a 009 scene.
They are as old hands at this as we are watching these. So they're like, 009's dead.
So they say, well, we better call our Bond for this movie. What's he doing? Well, he's actually just on vacation. Well, do you think maybe could I call him and get him out of it?
What are you having? Is that good? He's like, it's pheasant. Oh, it should be good then. It is rather good, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a sort of like Spartan film, because ordinarily at this point we would cut to our Bond who'd be, I don't know, committing some kind of sex crime, and then we'd establish him. But instead, we just cut straight to Berlin and our Bond, Quiller, who is American, weirdly.
Yes, this is an adaptation. It's a change they made for the movie. In the books these are based on, he's British, and the agency is like more obviously MI6, right? But like they've just kind of glossed over that here, and they've made him a bit more of an outsider in that way.
Yeah. So we go to a Berlin stadium, and our Bond, Quiller, meets his man in Berlin.
Not just a Berlin stadium, the Olympiastadion, which is like, you may remember it from the 1936 Olympics. And
if you're very old.
If you are a time traveler or you were around for the 1930s, you may remember it from the 1936 Olympics, where it was kind of a set piece of the Nazis' like Olympic Games organization. Yes. And Quiller is sort of like there's a tour group, and there is a sinister Alec Guinness. One of my favorite genres of Alec Guinness.
I'm so excited to see Alec Guinness.
I'll say this about Alec Guinness, right? If you've only seen him in stuff like, you know, Star Wars, right? You might think, that guy's a really good actor. And you would be right, right? Like, but the thing about Alec Guinness is he's a professional, right? And I think there's a sort of mark of difference when he's playing a role that he is interested in and likes. Like, I hate to say this because you can't really tell from the performance except comparatively, but like Obi-Wan Kenobi as a performance is kind of phoned in, right? It's like,
yeah, you can write this shit.
The guy towards the end of his career being like, yeah, fucking space wizards, whatever, more elegant weapon for a civilized age. Even something he actually likes, he's like way better than that. And this is clearly one of those.
He did famously say in his letters home that he didn't particularly enjoy playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then everyone treated him as if he was a million years old. At the same time, though, like the result of was just a fantastic and iconic IP that I just think Star Wars is really excellent.
Hey, I gotta tell you, the original trilogy, I love them.
Yeah.
The next one as well.
I have a sort of digressive story about Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi that I always makes me feel like indeterminate feelings, which is he, having played the role, met a fan who had seen the film like 11 times. And because autism hadn't been like formally invented yet, you know, he was like, okay, I'll sign an autograph like you want, but you have to promise to never watch Star Wars ever again. And what Alec Guinness sort of inadvertently did is enter this poor kid into a kind of neurodivergent devil's bargain.
So fucked up.
But then, you know, it was really weird of him to say that to me, but then I grew up and I got cast in it. So
yeah. But yeah, so Alec Guinness is Paul, who is the kind of like handler for this mission. And he's very small, very like greased down, little sort of like neat moustache. The accent is interesting as well. It's kind of working class London, but like mannered a bit. It reminds me, I'm trying to think who it reminds me of, and I couldn't quite place it. He talks a bit like Ken Livingstone, if you have any sort of like context for that.
It's a very good choice, because it's either a kind of like working class guy who is now made good and is working for MI6, or it's a posh guy who's trying to sound more working class than he is. Either one tells us something quite good about the character, and the fact that we can't tell tells us even more.
Yes. And he's sort of like casually sitting there eating his like bratwurst They do the obligatory code phrase, which is sort of cigarette based.
Yeah.
And he finally gets through the code phrase and tells him, right? The thing about Germany, it's full of fucking Nazis. I don't know if you're aware of this.
He's like, listen, a bit of a problem. Germany, it's full of fucking Nazis. I know we tried to deal with them, but they're back. And worse than ever. Something inherent for German psyche, I think.
It's phrased really well too. It's this time they're not in any hurry and they look like anyone. And we know that they're trying to implant themselves into the political life of West Germany to seize power again. And we're engaged in a kind of secret war against them.
Yeah.
He says they look just like everybody else.
Yes. Yeah.
He says that twice. Yeah, you're in a shadow war now.
They have a secret base somewhere, but we don't know where it is.
And as he says, it wouldn't do to underestimate them, which is, a worthwhile moral about sort of neo-Nazis then and now.
Yeah, it is.
You got to take them seriously.
The thing that strikes me about this too is that it's kind of shooting fish in a barrel, but filming, as they do in the next scene, a 1966 West German crowd with the heavy implication, wonder how many of these guys are still Nazis.
These guys could still be Nazis,
It's very effective given that 20 years is not such a long time.
No.
And you're sort of looking at everyone over the age of about 35 and you're going, hold on a second.
Motherfucker, what were you doing 20 years ago, cunt?
So they have a secret base somewhere. We need to find where it is. And 009 was onto it. Hence he got killed. Hence we brought you in.
And the previous guy as well. He even asked, he's like, who was the station lead in the last memo you got? And he's like, it's some guy. It's like, it's not even him. He's dead. And it's not even the next guy. He's actually also dead. Yes. He died 2 days ago. Best of.
Yeah.
Best of luck. And again, I always have a weakness for this kind of thing of being your assignment is extremely perilous. Goodbye. I'm reminded of one of my favorite books, one of my favorite spy books, The Man Who Was Thursday, where the sort of agent handler there said, introduces the mission by saying, I am sentencing you to death. Good day.
And also spends the entire mission, just the entire briefing scene being a little bit too arch.
Yes. Yeah.
You're like, I'm not full of confidence right now. But what am I going to do? I'm going to go and just start announcing my presence.
Yeah.
This is interesting, right? Because the traditional Bond structure at this point would do this, but not acknowledge that it was intentional, right? Would be okay, Bond walks up to the guy and goes, I know you've been doing evil plans. My name is James Bond. I'm staying at the Hotel Excelsior room 402. I tend to leave it unlocked. And I'm very vulnerable to poisons.
Do you want to come and fuck me and also poisons? That's it, yeah.
That'd be a more interesting direction for a Bond movie.
Yeah.
But here, what happens is he knows he's being followed, right, as he leaves through the Kurfürstendamm in West Berlin.
Being followed by a big guy.
A big guy. The most Nazi-looking motherfucker you've ever seen. And again, they really play up to they cast some Nazi-looking guys in this. And this big blonde guy is following him. And we do some, not for the last time in this movie, actually pretty good counter-surveillance techniques. He ducks through a shot and hides to shake the guy off.
Yeah. And then he starts following his pursuer as well. And, follows him into a bar and then just goes right up to him and is like, yo, what up? Are you looking for me?
I have a couple of things here. First of all, this sort of chase scene is shot very sparsely. There's no music for a long time. And it doesn't explain anything. And if you compare that to the way something like the Bourne movies do this exact scene, of you cut to a control room of guys yelling, get me some eyeballs on the street. Exactly. It's so much more subdued than that, but it's not sedate for it. It's still very tense.
It's tense, very tense. So he goes right up to him and he's like, yo, what up? And the guy uses the code phrase. He's like, hello, I'm Hangul. I'm a friendly agent. I'm here to support you.
Yes.
What's the plan, boss?
I'm your cover because I'm supposed to follow you around and guard you. And because the last guy didn't trust me enough to have me do that, he got. Therefore, you are going to want to trust me. And of course, Quiller does not trust him. And you have quite a tense scene with him but he orders him a beer and he's like, I don't want to drink this. You can't make me drink this.
He also insults his skin. He's just like, you have terrible skin. Like, what you need to do that thing people do on TikTok that makes them look like they're covered in slime.
Yeah.
He also gets in an incredible. Did you get a drop of the?
Oh yeah, I have it. He orders a drink and then goes,
I need a chaser.
It's just for us.
And so Hangel's like, hey, next location is probably going to be bowling alley or the swimming pool, because 009 like to go to both of those.
And unusually, Quiller makes the thing intentional where he's like, I will go there and make sure they know who I am so that I can find them, or so that they can find me, which will allow me to, like, you know, get onto their trail.
The scene of the bowling alley is interesting because it's a dead end. It doesn't go anywhere.
It's true. There's a couple of these. Also, I do want to note very quickly, he, in the course of the code phrase, he like takes a cigarette off this guy Hangel and he smokes 1 second of the cigarette and stubs it out. This is the cigarette that you smoke instantly and the cigarette that's good for you. They invented it. We were just too blind to see.
It's not really good for you so much as it's just not as bad for you as the other thing.
I think having like 1 second's worth of a cigarette is good for you. It's probably fine. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but like.
So we go to the bowling alley and he talks to the boss. He's like, I'm a businessman. I'm a friend of 009. So the boss is like, never heard of him.
This boss, who, by the way, looks like Josef Mengele on a bad day. Like, there's some alarming hairlines and sort of like skull jaw shapes in this movie. Yeah, like, again, combined with Alec Guiness in the beginning, you just kind of end up doing West German phrenology, where you just like see a guy and you're like, this guy's a fucking Nazi. He looks like a Nazi to me.
Well, he kind of gets profiled in the next scene because he goes to the swimming pool and he's, for some reason, like watching the people swimming. He poses as a coach and this guy comes up to him as suspicious and asks him to leave. And I'm like, does this guy think he's gay? Is that what he's suspecting him of?
No. It's just, chiefly, this is a movie about how annoying it is to talk to German people, because he goes to this swimming pool and he's like, hey, I'm just watching. Is that cool? And the guy goes, no, it is not allowed for you to watch here. He goes, come on. It's like, no, this is not the location for watching. This is the location for swimming. You can tell because it is called the swimming pool. You have to leave now.
And then the next thing is like, okay, 009 was maybe onto a lead because there's a school teacher who recently got arrested because they found out he was a massive Nazi.
Yes.
And like, that's got to be confusing to the kids in his class. But like, I don't know. There's a couple of teachers that I had at school who I would have been very happy if they'd been arrested. But
there's a couple of teachers at my school who were arrested, not for war crimes, but for the other bad thing, you know?
Yeah. My history teacher, an old history teacher of mine, did in fact get questioned by police, I think.
The thing is, you mentioned where I went to school. I think one of the chief things about where you go to school is that it's probably not good if it has like a controversies section on Wikipedia.
That pheasant was great, though. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very dense mashed potatoes, though.
And at this, we also see like old-fashioned school security because he just goes into like a school.
Yeah. Just walks in,
filled with children. Walks in the door, unlocked. Says, "Hello, I'm a journalist from this paper." That,
no ID to prove this. No anything to prove this.
No. I'd love to chat to one of your teachers about the Nazi teacher. I'm writing a report on like Nazis. And so he ends up, well, first of all, he speaks to like
the headmistress.
Like the headmistress?
Yeah, the headmistress, who is like also fairly sinister looking and is like, oh, I don't speak English. You'll have to like speak to one of our teachers who does. Please follow me. And she takes him to meet
Miss Smoke Show.
Yes, Miss 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 Smoke Show, Miss Lint, Inga.
The Lint Master Chocolatier.
The Lint Mistress Chocolatier here.
Oh, excuse me.
Getting my shit whisked
by
the Lint Mistress
Chocolatier.
Dev dropping out just leads us into these situations. Yeah, this is sense.
You listen to Dev dropped out for like 10 minutes ago because their internet clapped out and they're still trying to restart it. So now we're just getting into the Lint Mistress Chocolatier.
Yes, yeah. And this is Senta Berger, who you may remember from The Spy with My Face and like a bunch of other things we've watched.
Wait, she was in Spy with My Face? I thought she seemed kind of familiar.
Yeah, she was in The Spy with My Face. She was in Shots in 3/4 Time. She was in...
Was she?
Yeah. She's been in a bunch of these.
Wow.
She had this like whole sort of like Eurospy career.
Yeah, she's great in this too. I really like her.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I dislike about this, right, is that they want you to understand that this beautiful woman is beautiful, right? And I had a few clues for this, like mostly like looking at her. Also, she's wearing a very tight dress and that kind of like 1940s like bullet bra lingerie. So I'm like, my like eyeballs are bulging out. I'm like floating towards the like pie cooling on the windowsill. But
hitting myself on the head with a frying pan.
Exactly. But the movie doesn't trust me to do that. And so instead, every time she's on screen, they just smear a bunch of Vaseline on the lens.
Yeah, they do. They do the old Vaseline on the lens trick. And I've got to say, I've always wondered what that was about. But having seen this film, I was like, wow, that actually works.
It really does soften things. I mean, I swear to God, there is a scene later on where she's like hugging Quiller and one of her teeth sparkles. So that's kind of how we're filming her.
It does work when you hold on her close-ups for a long time, but when you're cutting from close-up to close-up from Quiller to her, it looks kind of weird because all of her shots of Vaseline and none of his are. And the impression I'm getting from it is just like either there's something wrong with my eyes or Quiller looks like shit.
Quiller looks like shit, and like her half of the room has like a kind of heat haze situation.
But anyway, he goes up to her and he's like, yo, what up? I'm a reporter from nowhere.
Well, not just a reporter from nowhere. He claims to be a reporter from Philadelphia. And what he does is inadvertently the plot of The French Dispatch, where he's like, yeah, we actually think that Philadelphians care a lot about what happens in Europe, so we're just doing a European newspaper that goes to Philadelphia. On that basis, I'm doing an article about neo-Nazis. Have you heard of these guys? Area German woman? And she's like, maybe? I guess it's kind of an...
Yeah. It's nice because, like, obviously they're trying to make us, well, is she with them or is she not? So she says, well, we were all very surprised when, you know, Herr Steiner turned out to be an evil Nazi. Like, he was a good teacher. He was very dedicated. And he says, so what's the new Germany all about? Like, what do you think of it? And she gives these very kind of like prefab answers where she's like, well, we're teaching the children a broader attitude. And it's like, maybe you mean this and you're being cautious because you don't know this man, or maybe you're being cautious because you're a Nazi.
Yeah, do you remember the bit in The Sum of All Fears where the like guy is the evil neo-Nazi guy is talking about like European integration and stuff, and it zooms in on his watch and the back of it has a big like swastika engraved in it? That's kind of the like thought process that I'm going through with this woman, where I'm like, I'm gonna need to see the back of your watch right now, lady.
I'm running the Hitler particle detector and it's like it's clicking because there's someone in here, but I can't get a lock on it.
The thing is, you're in West Germany in the 60s. There's a high background level of Hitler particles. Ambient Hitler is quite high, and it requires quite a like fine-grained detector to work out whether like an individual like West German is like emitting the Hitler particles or not.
Yeah, and then he kind of behaves well. Like a bit of a creep, but in a way that I believe that a spy would.
Yeah.
Because he invites himself back to her place, gives her a lift in his convertible, helps her carry her bag upstairs.
Beautiful Porsche 356, by the way.
And they have this chat that's like kind of him chatting her up, but also kind of an interrogation. Like he's subtle, but he pushes her a lot. And it's like, what kind of men do you know? Do you know any Nazis? Like, what do you think? Are you a Nazi? Would you ever be? Oh, not that I think there's anything wrong with that, of course, but you know, maybe you are.
He kind of plays himbo. He's like, I'm a sports writer. And then, I don't know anything about politics. And then the way that he provokes her a little bit to like test things is he insults the German boxer Max Schmeling and talks about Joe Louis having like laid him out in the ring. And he just kind of generally like is a kind of ugly American. And she like takes this all in stride. She's like, oh no, I don't know anything about boxing. And you're like, but do you though?
Yeah. He's like, at one point he even says like, you know, there's a lot of people who think that Germany like needed to be strong and you got to make the strong nation.
I have a drop,
dominant nation.
In fact.
I wouldn't say dominant. I mean, we don't want to dominate anyone.
Because he's comparing it to the US like pretty often. He's like, I mean, listen, obviously, I'm an American. I want America to be strong. I don't think it's wrong for like Germans to want Germany to be strong. And it's like seductive and investigatory. It's like
it's the old interview technique of like, well, when the rain blows and when the rain pours and the wind blows, the man buttons up his coat. But when the sun shines and the clouds go away, the man takes his coat off himself. Like he's like trying to set her up and be like, hey, if you were a Nazi or you knew any Nazis, that'd be cool with me. And I'm definitely not a spy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's like, well, there's some Nazis in Germany, but they don't call themselves that anymore. And like, but and she doesn't really give him anything. And he's like, cool. Do you want to go on a date?
Yeah. And she's like, well, maybe. Like, I'm around all the time. You can just, if you want to find me, just walk into the school full of children unsupervised and just find me, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's a really nice. It's nice to see this thing because he's clearly very good at being a spy, and it's like it's nice to see someone who's good at being a spy, but not in a way that's like they can turn into a stuntman from a long way away.
Yeah, genuinely.
Do you know what I mean? Like as much fun as it is to watch James Bond do his thing, this guy has a different thing, and it's good to watch him do it.
He's more detective than spy, and I think there's a lot of overlap there, right? I think a lot of spy movies sort of require their spies to kind of like play detective for a bit. And it often doesn't come off. Whereas here, I think it really does because it's mostly about that, like there's comparatively little violence in this movie. We'll sort of get to that. Even the kind of like thriller stuff, like it's mostly like foot chases and stuff like that. And I think in this case, it works really well. So he's about to leave. We see the other side of his car, which is like insanely dirty. And I just write down, apropos of nothing, I don't give a fuck if you're a secret agent, wash your damn car.
So he has this altercation in the street with these guys who come up to him, and the subtitles at this point crapped out, which is why I need your German. Like, what happens here?
Yeah, it's just the one guy at first, actually, but he like sees a guy who looks like kind of 70s West German Virgil, Texas, right? And he's like, I think that motherfucker's following me. So he turns around, stops him where he's like looking at an advertising hoarding and says, hey, are you following me? And the guy's like, no, I'm not following you. And so he kind of like threatens him a bit. He kind of pushes him. And what he does by doing this is force the rest of the surveillance team out of the bushes, essentially. Because then one other guy shows up and is like, hey, is this guy bothering you, Queen? And then a second guy shows up and is like, hey, is this guy bothering you, Queen? And there's three guys like very obviously together being like, why are you messing with my friend, Mr. Normal Man? And he's just like, oh yeah, no worries, I guess I'll just leave then. One of them is like standing in front of me, he's like, you're in my way, and like moves him out of the way and leaves. So like he is aware now that like his sort of provocations, like poking at this like bowling alley guy and the like swimming baths guy have led to him actively being followed by Nazis, and he knows who they are.
And he also speaks flawless German, which earlier he said he didn't. So that's a nice little reveal too.
Yes.
And this provocation does not go unanswered though, because later on somebody bumps into him just in the street, just idly, and we see that he's being watched and stuff.
Yes.
Then he gets in his car and he goes driving, and like
Hengel is following him.
Yeah,
as he's supposed to. We are told, right? Because he's his bodyguard. And as they're driving on the Autobahn,
and they're really driving too. It's not like a screen like James Bond, like da 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 da, and he's in front of a big projector. Like they're really driving.
And it's tense. It is silent, and the driving is like getting increasingly fast as well. And again, we see some good counter surveillance in brackets car this time, where he like cuts across a like slip road to like get off the highway, and he just like he dodges Hengel, who is just like left looking after him as he as they separate.
And then he pulls up to some red lights. I fucking love this. I love this reveal. He pulls up to some red lights, and he like starts feeling faint, and the camera goes all blurry, and he collapses over.
Low blood sugar.
Yeah. You gotta have a Snickers. And then the guys in the car next to him, one of them gets out, pushes him into the passenger seat, and drives away. And it's like, oh fuck, the guy who bumped into him in the street must have like injected him with something.
Yeah. And I love this because you don't see like a dart or something like that. He doesn't even react to it at the time, other than like the guy bumps into him and goes like, ow, and it's in passing, right? Like it's really, really good. And I think like a movie with less confidence in itself would have gone with like a little reaction shot or like him pulling like a dart out or something, but it leaves you to piece it together.
Yeah. Or would have had like a flashback to the bumping, or even would have like shown us explicitly that the guy bumped into him like had a little needle in his hand or something.
Yeah. But so he
really
suffers from like acute low blood sugar and gets bundled into this car. And he wakes up in, predictably,
the best scene of the film,
the Nazi torture basement. You know, it's sort of me getting the shit kicked out of me in a Nazi torture basement. You're not you when you're hungry. Have a Snickers.
It's a lovely torture basement. It's gorgeous.
Very eclectic. And the reason why is because they filmed this like largely in Berlin, right? And Berlin, even in 1966, was like still so bombed that like you had to like stitch this together with like effectively like stage sets, right? So this has been like made. And so what you have is this like sort of 19th century sort of villa room that's been like interposed with a bunch of different architectural styles. And I will say this, the boys, these various Nazis who we have seen earlier, like following him around, are both stanced up around the room sort of haphazardly, and also they're getting fits off. I hate to say it. Like this is the menswear right. Like they're...
Yeah, you do occasionally have to hand it to them. Like, so we finally meet Max von Sydow, whose name is October.
Oh, I have the drop. Yeah, he like wakes him up and he goes,
"My name's October."
Imagine being named after a month. Couldn't be
very
me.
good thing that you didn't choose that.
Yeah. Max von Sydow is
the hunt for brown shirt October.
Yeah, clearly like the boss Nazi.
Yeah, because you can tell because he's wearing a green velvet smoking jacket and has bleached hair that's been slicked down.
You know what else is a line I have as a drop that Max von Sydow says?
What?
Heroin.
Yay!
Which is entirely germane because this guy, October, his deal is he is the drugs Nazi. And to be fair, a lot of Nazis were the drugs Nazi, right? Like if you're in the secret Nazi torture basement and they offer you chocolate, do not take it.
But he says, "Hello, I'm Esbern of the Greyborns, and I'm going to teach you how to use your thum. But first of all,
why
don't you tell us your real name?"
This is a great fucking scene.
I fucking love this. It's so good. He uses the Jerry Adams technique of simply just being like, "You got the wrong guy. I'm like Joe Fuckstick. Like you got the wrong guy. I'm a book dealer. Like he says mistaken identity."
He wastes so much of their time, and you can see Max von Sydow trying not to get frustrated with him. Being interrogated, right, is God's perfect occasion to do bits. Like you are set up for it so badly because there is someone who has to ask you questions with a straight face, and you can just be like, "Yeah, my name is fucking Joe McGuigan. Prove I'm not."
But yeah, he says you got the wrong guy, mistaken identity. He keeps bullshitting them, and he's like, "Come on, what's your real name?" He's like, "I'm John Fuckstick the Third." Like you got no, and then he goes like, "Come on, Mr. Quiller, tell us your real name."
Yeah, it's a beautiful line. What's your real name, Mr. Quiller? And it's the sort of technique that October is using here is kind of patient and insistent and amused. And he's sort of like indulging him. However, Quiller has another thing up his sleeve. And do we recall the solo principle?
Yes, always be escaping.
Always be escaping. Eventually they will let their guard down, like after the like 100th time you try to escape. Well, he tries it the first time, it doesn't work. And then he immediately tries it again and it does. The quickest return of the solo principle.
Well, kind of, yeah, because he tries to run for it, he gets beat, and then they inject him
with the
heroin.
Well, they inject him with something, and he makes him,
I assume. I mean,
very docile.
Oh, it's like a truth serum. It's like sodium pentothal or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, predictably, there is a Nazi doctor there, sort of likely ideology for it. To like inject him. I do appreciate that every time he injects him, he gives him the little like swab first. Yeah.
It's like, well, we wouldn't want you to get hurt.
Yeah. And so
but he's so fucking out of it that he can't tell them.
Yes.
He says Inga, which is the name of the teacher. And Max von Sydow's like, "Come on, your boss's name isn't Inga. Like, who's your boss? Where's your base? Like, what are you working for?
Again, it's more...
Where's your base? Where's your base? Where's your base?"
More insistent, but still kind of like it's coaxing. He's not like slapping him around or anything. He's like, At a few points, he like tries to trick him essentially, and he's like, "Hey, we need to get a hold of your boss so we can help you. What number do we call?
Yeah,
you should report to your boss right now. Let us help you do that."
Yeah, it's this great bit where he's just like, "Oh, that boss of yours, it works you too hard. What's his name again?
What's his fucking name? What's his name?"
Yeah.
And like you see Quiller having to like bite back answers, right? Like he's like so nearly like almost says a name that he shouldn't.
He says Paul at one point, but then like says like Polly want a cracker, and like he rolls it into this bullshit. This scene is honestly, listeners, it's so fucking good. Like the dialogue in this, it's so like well written, and there's so many little blind alleys, and like it's so tense as Max von Sydow is like slowly like seeking out, like spider like crawling towards the right information.
Yeah, he does kind of like do a bit of sissy hypno on him as well.
He does.
Because like Quiller's other technique to and the reason why he says Inga, right, is that there's a painting, or like it might be a fresco across the thing of like a nude woman, and he sees this and he gets too horny to get interrogated effectively.
Yeah.
This is a technique I've done before.
But then Max von Sydow is just like, "Oh, that girl Inga, like you like her? She's pretty. Your boss is fucking her right now. What's your boss's name again? We should go get him for you." Like, and then he even tries to be like, Quiller, you've been captured. Like, we just found you. You need to report. Tell us the number of the person you answer to. And like, it's so fucking relentless. It goes on for like 15, 20 minutes. It's honestly incredible.
Yeah, it's.
My notes say, "Do you imagine yourself as a woman when you masturbate?"
Oh, I mean, I have a drop, not from this, but from later on.
We're very interested in the feminine point of view.
So, but yeah, it does have a little bit of the like forced feminization to it by the end, especially when they're like both looking at this fresco and being like, "Yeah, she's got really like long legs. Does she? Tell me more about it. You can go back to her if you tell me what your boss's name is." And yeah, it's sort of like very, very suggestive, very collaborative. And of course, eventually he like passes out from too much
heroin.
And Max von Sydow is like, "Fucking, I have never met a problem I cannot solve by injecting pharmaceuticals into a like captive. Hit him up with the amphetamine,
Yeah, well, they say like kill him and dump his body, basically. That's how the scene ends. But they don't. No. Interestingly.
Yeah, they leave him alive, like by the spray, by the river. He's like, his suit is soaked. He's lost his shoes, and he sort of like stumbles to a taxi. And asks the guy to take him back to his like shitty little hotel. So presumably he can get started on writing that memorandum. And again, paranoia. Yes, I'm paranoid, but am I paranoid enough? Right? Because he is, of course, being followed. The Nazis are like waiting for him. And we don't actually know whether the cab driver is like in on it, but it's like heavily implied that he is. And so he sort of like waits for him to get out of the cab to like hand him back over to the Nazis and like steals the cab. And we get a car chase.
Yeah, and like he causes his pursuers to crash, but like, I don't know, it's an interesting question. Like, is the taxi driver in on it? Is he not? Like, we don't know. We don't know what the fuck's going on. He eventually makes it to a hotel and he gets a room and he calls Miss Smoke Show.
Yes, at like 1 a.m. And is like, "Hey, I miss you. Can I come and see you?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Probably not now, but like tomorrow,
like maybe,
I guess."
Maybe tomorrow, actually. Maybe after school.
So then he like gets a new hire car. His suit is still like extremely fucked up after this, which I always like. I'm always weak to like, you have like fucked up a guy's outfit over the course of a movie. And a guy, like a rather sort of effete, sort of Quentin Crisp type guy.
Yeah, very old man.
Yeah. A gay old man gets in the car with him and is like, "Here's your code phrase. You got to come with me."
Yeah.
There's actually a really good bit because the code phrase is entirely cigarette based. And he like has to offer him a cigarette. And at the end, he like offers it him back. And the guy's like, "I don't smoke." You have to go and see Paul.
Yeah, he says, your car was found abandoned. Everyone at the agency thinks you're a dipshit. Go and see Alec Guiness.
Yes. And he tells Alec Guiness what happened. And Alec Guiness is so blasé about this. We have a fantastic line where Quiller says he ordered them to kill me. He goes, "And did they?" And Paul sort of like explains, "You are being outwitted at every fucking turn here. And the stakes are these. I'm going to explain using these 2 muffins. This muffin are the neo-Nazis, and this muffin is MI6. And you are this little cunty sultana that I've placed in the middle. And you have to like be in the middle of this, in this gap between them, giving us information without exposing our position. You cannot expose the position of Al Muffin. This movie is like very focused on bases and the location of bases.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's sort of the preoccupation, I guess.
Yeah, very base-based movie.
Yes. I actually find it quite cringe.
But Quiller's like, cool, great. Thanks for the encouragement, Alec Guiness. Meanwhile, you got to go on a date with Miss Smoke Show.
Yeah, I have to go on a date with this insanely hot woman. And
a slightly unusual technique here, which is like he touches her hair and holds her without being asked.
Yeah.
He also has this line. Did you get the line?
Which line? Oh,
he says,
oh yeah, I think I might do. Is it the one where he goes,
"You're so white"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Odd. You're so white.
So white.
Oh my God, Quiller, you can't just be telling people that they're white.
Careful, white.
Yeah, careful, whitey. Fortunately, she is into this. She kisses him back and she's like, yeah, I have been waiting for you. I do want to shag you, actually. So yeah, good call. Hey! Back!
Ooh, how are we doing? Where are we up to? What's going on?
We're doing good. Welcome back to the podcast, Devon.
Oh God,
Quiller just shagged Miss Smoke Show, the teacher.
And then I think he is awarded, for the first time we've awarded it to anyone in a while, the Brian Cox Memorial Award for Studies in Intelligence, because he kind of drops the facade a bit and he goes, yeah, I'm investigating neo-Nazis. You know, that I'm not actually a sports writer. I am a spy. And she goes, oh, that's crazy. Do you carry a gun? And he's like, no, because I would like get in more gunfights if I did, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
I kind of like this. If you don't carry a gun, you're less likely to get yourself killed, he says.
But yeah, so she says, well, my dad had a friend who knew the Nazis because he was part of them for a while. So like, I might be able to put you in touch with somebody who knows them. So they go to an abandoned swimming pool, which is always a great location because it's always super spooky. And the pool guy from earlier on is there. And he's like,
the fucking pool guy.
Hello.
And it's again, very tense, very kind of like fearful scene. Like they make out a bit while they're like waiting for the guy. But then the guy shows up and you can kind of tell maybe that Quiller is being given the runaround here because he's because this guy is like, oh, I got out of the Nazis pretty early when I realized that Nazism is bad.
Yeah, I found out about this. I read a book and got woke.
Yeah, I read 800 pages of like Marxist feminist theory and I decided that I saw this video essay actually.
You're de-radicalized transgender YouTuber. It happens.
Yeah, I don't know, but like I know a guy who maybe knows. So we're now at like 3 removes of guy here.
And the guy that this guy knows is a girl.
Yeah.
Because,
hey,
why are we saying this? It's the school teacher from before. The headmistress was like, hello.
I have a question at this point, which is Hengel still driving around looking for Quiller? We just leave him. He's not in the rest of the movie for a long time.
I believe so.
He's just fucking around.
This whole time it's like, where the fuck is my guy gone?
You've fucked up bodyguarding worse than anyone ever has.
He's so mad. He's like walking around hitting himself in the forehead with a fist. Be like, fuck, no.
He's like worse at bodyguarding than Gerard Butler in the like Olympus Has Fallen movies. Like, okay, the guy doesn't die, but like it's fucked up that much shit is happening.
We'll get to those.
God, will we? So anyway, the school teacher and this pool guy are like, yo, we're the good Germans. We want to help you out.
We're Antifa, and we've been in the hashtag resistance.
Yeah, they'll vote, actually.
The base everyone's wanted to find, it's that house over there.
That dilapidated house. Yeah, best of luck. And then we have a little kind of contretemps, I guess, between them of fucking hell.
Yeah, all right.
Then we have a small argument.
Okay.
Just accidentally giving you fucking PTSD. We have a small faff about like...
Oh, it's a bit of a to-do.
Yeah, to-do.
Okay. All right, sorry.
We have a set to about who is leaving, who's staying, and who's going into the thing. Because clearly none of these motherfuckers want to be there.
Yeah, the school teacher woman is like, it is in there. By the way, I'm leaving now. Right the fuck now. I have nothing more to say. Goodbye.
Yes.
Good talk. Bye.
This is always the good sign, right? When this happens.
Okay.
And, but it's plausible, Nazis, very frightening.
Yeah.
And so Miss Lint is like, fine, I'll stay behind. And so he leaves her in the car with a phone number. And it's like, if I don't come back in 20 minutes, call this number, tell me you need cigarettes, and they'll like come to my rescue.
Yeah, and this is like back in the 60s, so the number is like 55.
Yeah, dial 1.
It's like 6 numbers long, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So he infiltrates the building.
Actually, she says, "I love you" first.
Yeah.
She does. She swings,
He just
and I'm like,
leaves.
He looks at her like, okay,
Ice cold. So we've shagged once at this. Like,
bit early. This is the second date.
And as he sort of like enters the building, surprise, the fucking menswear guys are there. Dev, you missed a bit.
Immediately captured.
You missed a bit earlier where I said about them in the like first interrogation scene. But this is true of every subsequent scene. There's like 5 of these guys. They are always A, stanced up, B, getting a fit off, and C, arranged haphazardly around the room.
Fully. Yes, they're walking into that room and they are seeing where everyone is and just leaning up against like wherever there's space. No one wants to sit down. Nobody respects the humble seat.
No.
Also, one of these goons pure spits Elon Musk.
Well, the one that spits Virgil Texas, the one with the cunty little turtleneck, is like, all right, fine, you're coming with us. These guys are credited, by the way, and they're credited in like some of the funniest IMDb things I've ever read.
Yeah, deranged kraut, demented kraut.
Not exactly. These are credited as October's man brackets brown trousers, October's man brackets tall blonde, and October's man brackets pipe. And the guy playing October's man brackets pipe is called Herbert Fucks. Just in case.
Nice, yes.
Herbert Fucks.
Tall blonde.
I sure hope he does.
It's very hard nowadays. They're not wearing brown shirts. However, this guy is wearing brown trousers, though.
Yeah.
Quiller is immediately captured. October is practicing his golf swing in the basement. Cunty as fuck.
Cunty.
Yeah, it's really funny that like when he comes back in, they have essentially the same interaction as Liz Truss meeting King Charles, where he's like, well, back again, dear oh dear.
And Quiller looks so upset at having been captured again and finding himself in the same room. He's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, they're going to inject me with the shit again.
Heroin.
Yeah, he's now reaching like the 7 out of 10 for like the punished Quiller spectrum. Because like he's been getting the shit kicked out of him both rhetorically and literally since the start of this movie. And at this point, it's really starting to flag him.
And
he's not giving any.
Rather than interrogate him again, October just goes, hey, we captured this girl around the side of the thing.
What's up?
It seems like you two are like connected a bit. And he tries to like play it off as being like, never seen her before in my life. Doesn't mean anything to me, kill her. And obviously this does not work. And October kind of laughs it off and is like, listen, I give you until dawn. You can leave. Like you can just fuck off outside, right?
Yeah,
by all means. But if you come back and tell us where your base is, you can leave, she can leave. Deal of the fucking century. If you don't, I'll kill you.
Yeah. He also says, we are moving our base tomorrow morning, so you can't go and tell anyone anything that isn't like, isn't we're fine with.
Yeah.
Also, all throughout this scene, October has very squeaky patterned leather shoes.
He does.
And as they're walking down the stairs to the basement, like so much of the suspense in this movie is just like the sound of someone's leather shoes stepping on concrete.
Yes.
Like, so fucking effective. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the opening 009 scene.
He also asks him, what's it like being so sexually attractive, Quiller?
Oh, I have the drop, in fact.
What's it like to be so sexually attractive, Quiller?
It's like one of these people who keeps messaging me that on Tumblr and then getting mad.
I need a chaser.
So he leaves, right?
I love this reveal.
This fucking scene. So like he's walking through West Berlin. It's the middle of the night. It's deserted. There's not even cars going past. And quite literally, the Nazis have guys on every corner. Like everywhere he goes, there is another guy in a cunty little menswear fit being like, no, you don't. He tries to like pick up the phone somewhere.
He walks, and we get this reveal where he's walking down the same street as 009 to the same phone booth.
Yeah.
And he tries to use the phone booth, and like the Nazi guy comes up behind him and it's just like, nope.
They don't even talk. And this captures a real kind of like, particularly, I think, neo-Nazi kind of menace, right? Where it's like, I don't even need to threaten you kind of thing.
Yeah.
They do this like a few times because he keeps trying to get to a phone. He tries to escape.
The thing is, like, we know from an earlier scene, like the first one with the two blokes talking about the pheasant, that both the previous agents were killed in the same way, shot in the back with the thing. And when Quiller leaves and he's walking down the same street, that leads you to believe that they've done this shit 3 times.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
My boy is getting done in yet again.
He like tries to escape with, again, some good counter surveillance, trying to like duck into a train station and like throw them off the scent. And it doesn't work. He comes back out, they're just waiting for him, like completely blasé, because there's more of them.
They all rush into a car and are like, fuck you, I know where you're going. Like drive ahead of a train and like arrange themselves casually.
This is really good. Like, this is up there for me with like the Long Good Friday for kidnapping movies. Even though he hasn't been like formally kidnapped, he's just kind of like being escorted by these guys.
And he also knows that like if he goes back, he can save her life. But the alternative option is he just lets her die. And he makes it back to his hotel around about dawn.
It's a really funny bit where he like goes and he sees that like the phone in the corridor next to his room has been ripped entirely off the wall. And at this point, I write down, "Stop outplaying this man. I feel sorry for him."
Every fucking turn, man.
His room has been ransacked. They are like several steps. They are several squeaky steps ahead of him.
Once they've done this shit twice already. Like, this guy is just walking down a fucking railroad. Like, got his ass.
So
and like, there's guys waiting outside his hotel, and he realizes, right, I can sneak out the back, and my car is in the hotel garage. So he does. He like, shimmies down and it gets into the garage of the car. And he's about to start the engine on his car. And then he's like, wait a minute. And he checks underneath the car, and they fitted a fucking bomb on it.
They've got this boy's ass.
My 26-step plan to kill this guy.
Yeah, they have covered every base. Like,
as a series of bits. Like, he's just doing, like, Max von Sydow is doing tricks at this. He's doing trick shots. Like, I'm going to, like, force him unwittingly back to the hotel where he's going to escape and take his car, which is then going to explode.
These guys are a more menacing presence than I think Spectre ever was. Because instead of doing shit like dunking people in piranha tanks, it's just like, the fact that our hero keeps trying shit like that you would try in that situation and finds they've already thought of it is just so fucking sinister. And like, they've not really got any sort of big evil plan that we're aware of. It's not like there's like a ticking clock with like, they're going to take over the government like in, at the meeting next week. There's no like doomsday laser. It's just like 6 dudes who've thought of everything.
Yeah. Like I had a facetious note like a little bit ago, but I didn't get to because I was in the nightmare dimension for a while. Whereas like this guy got referred to, Mr. October got referred to as like the Reichsfuhrer. And I wrote down like, you can't be the fucking Reichsfuhrer if there's like 8 of you. It's a big fucking title to give yourself when you've got together with like 7 like-minded homies in like the community center.
Yeah, and I mean, this is basically like, they're basically a street gang. Like,
I will say, fuck it, he deserves it, man. He's been thinking about this. Like, he's really headed this boy off at every conceivable pass.
It's true. And so, obviously, the thing to do when presented with a car bomb is to detach it from the car, thus creating a sort of philosophical quandary of whether it's still a car bomb, and then detonate it deliberately. And for a second, he doesn't even like run away. And so I'm like, he's just like, oh, excellent. My charred corpse will serve as a distraction so I can get away.
You gotta leave the environment though, man.
Yeah, he tries to leave the environment. And, there's a sort of like scare where the door like isn't giving way, but he eventually escapes the environment. The thing blows up. He has like successfully faked his death in time to get to the Europa Center, which is like this. It's at this point, the tallest building in Berlin. It's got a big honking like Mercedes-Benz spinning trefoil on the top. It's still being built. It's like, this is the new Germany, man.
Whoa.
And in an unfinished floor of the building that's going to be like the new Germany is like the team, like Hengel, the like weird Quentin Crisp guy, and they're all like on to like camp beds on the floor, just like, where the fuck have you been?
Yeah, he comes in looking like absolute shit.
He's been blown up a bit. Like he's got
covered in dust, just like
also,
dour ass.
He feels really bad because like he left Inga to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had to. At which point Alec Guinness appears having just gotten out of bed.
In his
like,
dressing gown, in his gym jams.
Hello, how's it going? I'm Alec Guinness.
Yeah, Quiller rolls up with like face like a slapped ass, whereas Alec Guinness has just woken up and looks like so cozy.
He's like peeling his Korean skincare mask off. Like he looks fantastic.
Again, like one of the things that I value about like a lot of British spy movies that aren't James Bond movies is that they have a sort of class consciousness. We'll get to the Ipcris file, and when we do that, we will talk about very little else, I suspect. But there is a very clear kind of like, if you will, like junior senior divide, and in this case, like Paul's kind of like a middle manager. He's like a junior officer, because like the seniors, as we see, are like at the opera right now. They're like being like, have you gotten an invitation to this garden party?
They don't care.
Lord Mayor's banquet.
Lord Mayor's banquet.
Beef Wellington.
Yeah, and Paul is like getting breakfast, and Quiller, who has just had the shit kicked out of him like 6 different ways and is shaking off a bad case of
heroin,
is like, I literally don't care. Just like, here is their location. Please.
They're at 123 Nazi Street.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go now.
They're leaving tomorrow morning. Just get in there fucking now. Deal with this situation.
Yeah.
Which they do off screen.
Yes, interesting choice.
What a choice. But like the thing that Quiller does to like outsmart these guys is one thing. He just like moves. He just fakes his own death with the car bomb.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing that he does in the entire movie that they hadn't like predicted that he would do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what gets him the W in the end.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I like that they're all arrested off screen. Like they call it in, and Hengel is like, yeah, no, they got all of them. They got October. No sign of a woman though, so I don't know what that was about.
Yeah. Quiller double checks. He's like pissed off. He's upset. And they're like, no mention of a girl. He didn't say anything.
I do like that he doesn't get any like glory out of this. He doesn't get to see anything satisfying happen. It's just like you are now in an office where a guy is making phone calls about it because of you. And you get this sort of question for him of like, are all of these arrested Nazis like worth her life, right? But
and there's this fucking amazing ending scene where he goes to the school and Inga is there, and he's like, how are you here? And she says, I'm very lucky, they just let me go. And
of course he is too smart for that, and so are we. And we have this kind of crossing swords conversation where it becomes increasingly clear and unsubtle that like she's on the fucking team. Like if anything, she's 100% on
I
the
believe
team.
so, yeah.
Really? I don't know.
She is, the old broad at the school is, the swim team guy, everyone here is a fucking Nazi.
Every German is a Nazi is the sort of like arc of this, yeah.
That's like my last note, actually.
But the way that he's like kind of entrapped her about this is she goes, oh, that number you gave me, I tried calling it and it didn't work. I don't know what's up with that. And he's like, didn't it? That's funny. He's like, she's so clearly been trying to fucking trace that number. And he has like given it to her as a trap because he's like suspected her from the start. It's and the thing is, what comes of this is like nothing. You would kind of expect from like a modern movie that like he leaves the classroom and like a bunch of cops go in and arrest her, right? Or she gets killed or something. He just leaves. They have this conversation where he's like, damn, seems like West Germany is like absolutely riddled with Nazis. And she's like, that would be crazy.
Yeah, wouldn't that be insane?
She says, you got them all. And he goes, perhaps.
Yeah. And then he leaves, sort of walks, like runs into the headmistress and like scares her. She's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like she clearly did not think that he was still alive.
Nazi, fucking
1,000,000%
look
Nazi.
at you.
And as the little German kids are being lined up and are marched across the playground, he just fucking leaves. He walks out and he's like,
every German is a Nazi. It's too hard to deal with. the new Berlin is going to be the same as the old one. Whoops. The last thing we see these teachers do, is like bring in these kids into the classroom, the next generation of German students. And you're like, you motherfucker. This movie,
all still Nazis,
has a very strong political opinion about the German.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
and I agree with them because it's becoming more and more apparent.
I think politically, right, it aligns a few things, namely that like the typical role of Western intelligence services vis-a-vis ex-Nazis was hiring them,
correct,
like sheltering them, using them, and I think that also it requires a degree of secrecy on the part of neo-Nazis, right, in like West Germany in the 60s that kind of wasn't really there. Like, okay, the like really wanted war criminals, like, you know, fled to South America, but like there was pretty openly like a kind of like former SS members association kicking around as like a kind of fringe political presence. Like this is it's not as secretive as all that necessarily. So as an explanation of like the sort of like lingering Nazi presence in like West German society, West German politics, I don't think it's an accurate one, but I think it exploits a kind of justified paranoia about it very, very, very well. And the one movie that I want to compare it to in that regard is Marathon Man, which does similarly, is like, you know, they're all fucking still Nazis. Check this shit out. As controversial as it was, the first season of the Amazon show Hunters also did a pretty good job with this, I thought. Not that it's really my place to say whether it did a good or not job, but I enjoyed it. And yeah, it just strikes me as a tremendously effective spy movie.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. Highly recommend this one, listeners. We finally found a good Euro spy movie.
Yeah.
At least that's our subjective assessment.
It has...
This one rocks. Yeah.
He's like a good spy, but he doesn't really like, he isn't really needed to be, and it doesn't really seem to move the needle that much.
Yeah, he basically does everything right, and by right I mean to instruction, and gets fucked over by every single other person involved.
Yes, yeah,
and ends the whole thing being like, I don't know if I won that or if I was just present for something happening.
It's almost nihilist. Like,
yeah.
But we shouldn't be engaging in this sort of subjective discussion of a movie's quality when we have objective measures available to us.
We do.
We have a science-based system on this podcast. We're conducting a 4-year review of our science-based system. It's definitely super duper scientific.
I'm conducting a review into whether or not all Germans are Nazis.
It's called the SCUM system. It stands for Smarm, Cultural Insensitivity, Unprovoked Violence, and Misogyny. How smarmy is the Quiller Memorandum? And I mean,
not very.
He smarms her up a bit.
He genuinely thinks that he's in a normal Eurospy movie for like the first half of this, and he is doing smarm throughout that.
Yeah,
it's pretty smarmy to go up to the guy following you and be like, "You looking for me?"
Like the whole first interrogation scene as well, when he still thinks that he can just like,
that's high smarm,
schmooze his way out. Really, really good.
Well, I don't know. Is that smarm or is that? Because Smarm would be like Bond being like, oh, my name's like, like, and but he's not really giving him like one-liners.
Bond does say that verbatim when you inject him with the truth serum. My name's James Bond.
He's not cracking jokes, right?
So sucking on Max von Sydow's finger.
He's doing counter-interrogation, like, and the stakes are very high and the tension is high. I'm not sure that's really smart.
I do also want to know, just in passing, that the depiction of torture in this movie, like, is pretty good in the sense that, like, it doesn't do the Bond thing of, like, you know, Bond's special ability is get rescued or escape right before you would like break under torture, so we know that he doesn't. But the books have a thing apparently where like Quiller can't break under torture, which is stupid. In this one, he kind of does, and I appreciate that. And I think that does kind of help with the low smarm argument. So I mean, could do like a 2 potentially.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Cultural insensitivity.
All Germans are Nazis, may be culturally insensitive, but in 1966, I defy you to say that it doesn't contain a grain of truth.
I'm pretty sure it's an
Read a book
all-white
of views.
I'm pretty sure everyone who speaks in this film is white, which means it's got to be at least 2.
Yes, submission is always 2.
Other than that, though, I'm kind of struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I really don't think so.
He doesn't do yellow face at any point.
It does strangely say
So white.
But like,
yeah, I don't know why he says that. That doesn't really jibe with anything else he says.
Even that, like, could be him trying to bait her is the thing.
Oh,
that's
dude,
the thing
me
about
trying to seduce a Nazi.
Oh, shit.
You look so Aryan tonight, sweetie.
No, he is.
Yeah.
That's 100% what he's doing.
Fuck,
so
is
right. It's straight up, because he has suspected her from the start.
Wait, I think a lot of the misogyny is like, well, is he being misogynistic, or is he like trying to test her?
Oh, this movie's so good.
Like, because like in the first meeting with her, he's going there like, hey man, listen, I think I got some sympathy here. I think the United States should be strong. You know, what's wrong with thinking your country should be strong?
Yeah.
I think even the whispered "you're so white" is
You're so white. You probably think the song is about you.
You're
Two?
so white. Yes. But you think this pod is about you?
You walked into the party like you're walking into a Reich. I don't know. This is nothing.
Okay, that's pretty good. Hold on. Okay, we can't do any more. But
This is so like one.
yeah,
Two. A mission is baseline 2, so 2.
Oh, two. Yeah,
two,
okay,
two.
yeah.
Unprovoked violence?
No, it's all pretty provoked. Like, I mean,
Yeah, he doesn't really do much,
oh,
actually.
it's looking like this could be a good film.
it seems so. I mean, like he only really
Objectively.
like fights the Nazis when he's trying to escape from their Nazi torture basement, which is pretty fucking provoked as far as I'm concerned.
You're allowed to fight Nazis
At any
just
time.
in general, even if they don't have you in a torture basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nazis are inherently provocative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Just don't fucking.
nil?
It might be 0, yeah.
Yeah, genuinely.
In which case, it's all going to come down to misogyny.
In which case,
It always does.
there is one woman, and that woman is a deceptive.
They both are, I guess.
Well, there's 2 women. Okay, fine. But
they're both deceptive.
There's two women. One of them is old and evil, and the other is like sexy and evil. Crucially,
Oh, is she?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
But I think it's ambiguous as to whether or not she's evil.
I don't think it's ambiguous by the end. I think it's ambiguous throughout, and I think the end is designed to tip you over into like she is 1,000,000% a Nazi.
Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to like have cracked it before the last scene.
Part of the reason I found the ending so like heartbreaking was because like these people do like each other, but also they can't trust each other because like she might be a Nazi, but also maybe she's not, and like he has to walk away. Like I also think about like, not that I'm the final arbiter on this, but like I think about, would I want to play this role? Like, or am I going to be like getting a script for this and being like, I'm offended as a woman? I would love to play a role like this because she's so good.
It is a really good role, and it is really like ambiguous for I think most.
They wrote a woman with depth. You know, they tried giving her
They did.
2 or 3 layers.
I mean, unfortunately, that depth is Nazi, but like,
Maybe.
It's Nazi question mark.
Yeah. But they don't shag the first time they meet. Like there's no sort of like pussy clock, like Bond shit. Like she's not found in a bikini. She's like a woman with a career. Like, yes, she's very beautiful, but like...
It's an interesting like détournement of the kind of like typical Bond girl thing, particularly the I love you, which if you do read her as a Nazi, right, which I do, that strikes me as like a slightly overplayed hand.
Yes, a little bit.
Exactly.
Like, that's why he responds so like oddly to it, I think, is
But Gems, I love you. Knowing she's gonna be the kind of like bait in that trap like an hour later is pretty fucking devious.
motherfucker. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it might be like really low.
Yeah, I think this is low as
Like a
well.
1 or a 2? Like...
Again, not that it's my place, but
I don't know. I like 1, 2.
I could go for 1.
1.
I'm struggling to think like...
This might be the best movie we've ever seen.
Well, that gives it a total score of
I guess so.
5, which means it has in fact now beaten The Bourne Identity. This is the best film we've ever seen.
You know what?
Yeah.
It deserves it.
I think it does. I think it does.
This is the very definition of diamond in the rough. To be hit with the Quiller Memorandum this late in the season,
Yeah.
I'm over the moon.
I agree. I think this is one of the best films I've seen in recent times.
This is like the Festivus hitting in the last season of Seinfeld. You know, we still got it, baby.
I do want to award it a kind of 125 miscellaneous points because at no point in this does he write a memorandum nor read one.
It's a very Uncle movie title, isn't it? It's like, where's the fucking green hat? Where's the helicopter? Who the fuck are the karate killers and where is your memorandum?
I genuinely wrote down like 2/3 of the way in, boy, if you don't start working on that memorandum.
Bro, it's due. You're running out of time.
Well, actually, at the end, Alec Guinness says, I want a full report. So presumably that's what will be in the memorandum.
I needed another reel's worth of him typing.
Yeah, the whole credit should have just been him typing a little report.
Aww. With the little Homer Simpson reading glasses.
Yeah. Yeah, I fucking love this movie. I had a really good time. You should watch this movie.
It's great. He has a kind of Columbo affect for a lot of it too.
He does.
Yeah.
Just one last thing. All Germans are Nazis. It's really pretty good.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, all Germans are Nazis. And we'll see you next time.
Kim Petras, not a Nazi.
I mean...
Well, you've shown yourself to not be able to tell if a woman's a Nazi.
Yeah, clearly. Like, this woman's Hitler particle detector is busted. Like...
I guess,
We gotta recalibrate you, motherfucker.
I need to take it into the shop and have my Hitler detector.
3.6 Himmlers. That's not great, not terrible. I think it's pretty terrible.
3.6 Himmlers?
I think that's pretty fucking terrible.
That's pretty bad. One of them was bad enough.
Pretty bad. Consider what they did with one. Like,
one of them caused a lot of problems. All right, that's the podcast.
Podcast over now. Thank you so much. We have a Patreon. You can listen to it. The next bonus episode is going to be question mark.
Is it your pick or is it my pick? It might be my pick, actually. No, because I picked Card Counter. It is mine. Okay.
Great. Perfect. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. If you're listening to this, that makes you a Patreon supporter of the show. Thank you so much for letting us do this as a full-time job. You help us put as much effort into this show as we physically can. Thank you so much. But special thanks, obviously, to the best of you, our £15 and above Patreon supporters, and those are Lo Bjornsdotter, Candy Fox, Frere Aloysius, Gustavo Lira, Jack Holmes, Mike Berg, Hannah Oberhart, Nick Boris, Jason Hagen, Nato Mori, George Rohart, Kentucky Fried Commie, Drone Lover, Yarrick, Melody Morrow Gonzalez, Labor Delenda Est, Callan Burney, Jay Martindale, Trip, Top O, Library Hitman, Max Gemainhart, Jonathan Gerd, Mothman, Beef Crime, Kit Divine, Jack Drummond, Steve Widdershins, Staz, Moon Chillin, Troy Hudson, Lyndon Rose, Maeve Victoria Roth, Rosie Can't Fail, Anhedonia, Them Fatal, Artemis, Claire, Forrest L. Norvell, Anya Top, The Project, Lenina Skethach, Beth Lucy Stab Emery, Trans Commissar Sorsha, lovely to hear that you've got a new name, some sort of silly Canadian creature, Arthur Sex Crime, Whitney Wolverine, Loretta Mazurf, a trans robot, Ash, not in Florida, Hell, just the worst, those unseen of the fleshless flesh, trying a bit hard, Joyous Uwu, Touchable Tip, San Hutchin, Violet Cybra, Isopod Gal, Lady Ariane, Annie Ruby, Katie Probst, Clarification, Bronan, Noblesse Oblahai, Alex, Connor's Cool Big Sister, John 2089, Gay Perry, Sick, Singshit, Liz and Ash in Florida, Corvid Cultist, Wolfscott, Quinn Valeri, Wolfie is normal, Al Irwing, Finn Ross, Philippa Smith, who I imagine is also normal, Robert Greensmith, Loz Pycock, Mega Combi, Pandora Hex, Abigail, Emily Queen of Sloths, Misidentified Lemon, Turths Eat Shit and Die Alone, Josh Simmons, Cheer Up Love Might Never Happen, Zoe Shepherd, Talkative Tiger, Lauren Bastin, and Cariada. Thank you for keeping this show going. This show is, of course, November, Abigail and Devon, our producer, the wonderful Mr. Nate Bethay, our podcast art by Matty Lubchansky, our website by Tom Allen. And I'll see you next time.